10 seconds.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's the View from the Dead Box. What are you drinking, Mike? Is it a Stella Artois?
That is a Stella Artois. If I lowered my camera,
You got your pinky up when you're drinking that, or what?
I should. I mean, I can.
There it is. Yeah. So you sent me earlier in the week some weird ass site.
It's definitely a weird ass site. I will include the link on the podcast, so everyone can see the link there. It's called Vintagerex.com, and I don't know exactly how I found it. I believe it was on. So there's a McCarter Brown. I'm sure a lot of people know they got hacked a couple months ago. They got their site back for the most part. I think they lost some information. They had to go back to a older backup they had of it, so it was a couple months out of date. But from what I can tell, it's all back up and running now. But they have a Facebook group also that I'm in, and I saw them posting it, and someone has taken. I wouldn't call it a 100%. I don't think that would be possible.
No, it's probably like 75%.
Yeah, 80, but 80%. It's pretty good. It shows so many different old and unique markers. I mean,
I think it's like a photo gallery, but sorted better. Yeah. And of every single paintball manufacturer there ever was, and what gun they made. Now, some guns are definitely missing in there in those categories. But there's some guns in there that I didn't know existed, like Eclipse apparently made an automag. I did not know that.
I did not know that either. But I mean, it makes sense though, because I don't know if Dye ever made an automag. I have no idea. But those companies have been around since forever, whether they were making guns or not during their respective times. But obviously, Planet Eclipse, we've known they made autocockers. I never knew they made anything other than autocockers in their current lineup now.
I think in some of them they call them Eclipse, just Eclipse.
Okay.
Then maybe late they call them Planet Eclipse.
Okay, so that would make sense.
Again, yeah. And so maybe they have a Bushmaster, which I think I've never seen a Bushmaster either. I've seen the Shocker. I've seen seen the Impulse. I've seen the Cockers, obviously. I've seen all those, but I've never seen the Bushmaster, nor have I ever seen the what you call it?
The Automag.
Automag. Yeah, that's definitely a weird setup.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm just going to click one here. This is so if anyone wants to follow along, if that's a thing. The Macho Fire D36. This is apparently it was a prototype done in '94. It looks like a Phantom for people that are familiar with Phantoms.
Pump savvy.
Yeah. It was only a prototype, but it looks like a semi-automatic mag-fed gun. So that's what I mean. There was decent mag-fed guns.
There are some weird ass Milsim guns on there too.
Yeah, I mean, and it says caliber 63. I don't know if that's a typo. Someone hit a 3 instead of an 8, or what. But
put 2 3s together side by side, front to back. It's an 8 technically.
I mean, that is an 8 technically. I mean, it even had gear, and I haven't. Like I said, this is more something I've been messing around when I'm bored at work. But they have vintage hoppers that I'm just going to pop in here. We're just going to do this AGS oil can loader. It legit looks like an oil, like a funnel. Like if you took an oil funnel, but it has a lid on the top. This is what it says. This is an oil can loader made by Team AGS. And the flip top was an aftermarket accessory for it.
Yikes.
So it was made in 1990. So this is, I don't know, I kind of got on this kick last week when we were talking about, I'm putting in quotes here, custom guns. These aren't necessarily custom guns, but this definitely is vintage guns.
You can see how bad paintball was back then.
Yeah, I mean, what's this? That's just a... Oh, this was they don't know that they don't have the date of it, but it was called a TSAO Ram Box. It's a gravity-fed hopper, but it was actually a 2-piece. So the top could come off like our loaders do now, and it says for easy cleaning. So people had, I'm going to imagine this was either late 80s or early 90s. Some of the ideas we like that are common now, you can see where people were trying things and just either didn't have the technology to get it right, or
Funding.
funding, or like there wasn't a need for it yet. I mean, someone, if you had a paintball gun from 30 years ago and you put a spire on it, there'd really be no, you know what I mean? There'd be no need.
Yeah.
So I guess it just shows as technology goes.
Well, let's touch on that because think about it. Back in the day, it was 15 balls a second or unlimited, uncapped semi, right?
Yep.
And everybody was cheating with debounce and mechanical bounce and all that kind of cool stuff. But let's talk about how it became the evolution of who has the fastest hopper. That
Yeah,
was a thing. Like like the
for sure.
Z35. Like you had to have a halo. If you didn't have a halo, you were dog shit. Like
Yep.
and then you had to have the 0 or the 35 board. Then everybody had the strength turned all the way up, so it's like maximum force fed,
Yep.
where so much where it would crack fragile paint inside the hopper. But if you wanted to rail a legit 20 rounds a second out, you had to have it. If you wanted to maintain 20, not burst 20 and roll back down to 15,
Yeah.
you had to have fresh hopper batteries, and you had to have that bitch turned up. Because I remember back in the day, there were only a select few guns that were that fast. One was
Yeah.
mainly the Angel. That was their like dad's pride and joy. That everybody knew an Angel had an extremely fast cycle rate, and if they advertised 20 BPS or 22 BPS, it could shoot and maintain 22 BPS. And it was crazy because some of us play with batteries in our hopper nowadays, obviously a lot, but back then we played a month, 2 months in the hopper batteries,
Yeah.
and you would notice they would be shutting down and turning off. But it was a huge difference if you played 2 weeks on a set of batteries and you didn't really pay attention. And if you put new batteries back in the hopper, you picked back up like 3 or 4 balls a second. It's like, oh shit, it smoked your battery so much maintaining that spin rate that it's insane. And now everything is turned back down to 10, that
Yeah.
all the hoppers can't shoot past 15 now, really. Besides the rotor does really well.
Yeah.
But other than the rotor, there's not a lot of hoppers that can feed fast anymore. The Spire and the Control will struggle at that fire rate.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, it's almost like they always talk about the paintball arms race, and I guess there's almost two like sides to that. You had your gun side, which forced the hopper side. You know what I mean? Because like
Yep.
you had, like you said, all these angels and intimidators and even autocockers that were starting to shoot or were above 15 to 20 balls a second, maybe some slightly higher. So you had to have loaders that could do it, and you had companies like this is an old one, Behater, who was making boards for guns and loaders.
Yeah.
So or like even
Virtue.
View Loader and Virtue. Yep.
Yeah.
You had all the different chips.
Which technically it's crazy. I was just talking to Ken about this from the Savannah Titans about I think he bought my River X.
Yep.
And I think he damaged the board, like probably water, something like
Yeah.
that. And he's like, I'm like, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll get you on the board, da 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 da. And he's like, well, is there an upgrade? And I literally said 15 years ago that was a thing.
Yeah.
Like let me get that board. Like let me get that Virtue board, or let me get that Tadao board. Like that was the thing. Like you got a gun, first thing you did, boom, bought a trigger,
I forgot about
bolt,
Tadao.
bought a clamping. See,
Yep.
bought a bolt, bought a feed neck, bought a trigger, bought like a different ASA, and then bought a board. You bought a gun, you paid $1,200 for,
Mm-hmm.
and then you spend another $400 on the gun just to go play with it.
Yep.
And then that's not including your barrels, right? But now that's all standard. Like they still change the triggers out for your liking, but you don't really do an ASA anymore. Like you typically have freaks or Aculocks. That's what they come with now.
Yeah.
You don't really change the feed necks anymore. I think some of the dies you can still switch the feed necks on their shit, but it's not a thing anymore. The boards you don't change the boards. Like that's not.
No.
But as of a year ago, Virtue came out with that Lux Ace, which I think looks absolutely fucking horrible.
I think just the back cap's ugly, but
yeah, it looks like a fucking piece of shit. It really does. It looks all just cheap, like plastic shit all over it. But the technology in the board is something that they stole from somebody 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's the Bluetooth where it's like the RF activated or whatever it was.
Back in the day, right?
Was it Halo and Magna and Empire? They were all had their RF stuff.
It was the Draxus Pulse.
Draxus Pulse, that's right.
Right.
And I forget about the Pulse too. That's another piece of old gear that.
See, yeah, the Draxus Pulse, and from some of you guys who don't know, the Draxus Pulse hopper, every trigger pull from your gun, an RF chip signal went and sent to the hopper, and spun the hopper like an eighth of a revolution.
Yeah.
So then a guaranteed for every single pull, you were going to spin every single ball. So because back in the day, there were eyes inside of hoppers. That's not a thing really anymore.
No.
But there was eyes inside of hoppers, and every time the ball passed the eye and opened a gap, the hopper would spin. Well, naturally, there's going to be a delay. There's going to be a delay, and the time the ball drops to the time it says that the emperor, the eyes break beam and go, oh, hey, spin the hopper. You're not gonna be able to burst it really fast, really hard, right? So then the guys would turn their hoppers up super high and like trying to get maximum tension so they would
Yeah.
alleviate the difference in the bursting. Well, before that shit was even around, Angel actually came out with technology called IntelliFeed. And what that was is that was on a Revies, and we actually had one on Dad's old IR3. And what that was is there's a tiny little 3-prong plug that stuck out the top of the gun, and we never really knew what it was. But what you did was you hardwired and soldered into your revolution board, like on your Revy.
Yep.
You actually get rid of the battery, which is kind of cool. You get rid of the batteries out of it, which makes it
That saved a lot of weight. Yeah.
Which makes it double 9 volts, which isn't a thing anymore. Double 9 volts, and it runs 3 wires up into the hopper, and you solder them to the board, which isn't a big deal, right? That's just kind of easy stuff nowadays.
Yep.
And it plugs into the gun, and it uses the Angel had a big battery back in the day, and it uses the battery, which is one of the only rechargeable guns also back in the day. Which you got to think about how much Angel was ahead of the curve back then.
Oh yeah, if they could have either stayed around or came around later, like piggybacked off somebody else, I think they took on too much. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I heard, and I don't know if we touched about this last week. I think I sent it to you or texted you or messaged
maybe.
you about it. I don't know if it was a joke or not. I just stumbled across some like chatter on the forums, and they talked about Angel coming back, but for mech and making mech guns like Angels that were mech.
I mean, it's
And
like they
because
could easily do it.
because you got to think. I mean, the technology is very simple. Like a caveman can build a mech gun.
Yeah.
Well, they probably already have tons of stock and shit just sitting around, and mech frames are fucking dog. You can get it anywhere you want, right? Well, they're probably like sitting on all this inventory, and they have new stuff. They probably want to release some new stuff, but I think there's a big niche there, right? There's a big spot in the market right now for mech, and you guys are still using old stuff besides some of the new Luxes that are going to dominate the new Luxes or the CS2 frames that came out, the Shocker CVOs. Those are still going to dominate. But if Angel can come out with a mech gun, you're basically buying a gun, and it might have electro mode in it as well, but you're basically going to be buying a direct mech gun. Most people don't buy mech guns no more. That's not a thing. You buy a gun that's dual purpose, right? Like, you don't go out and buy cockers unless you're me. Like,
this is true.
So I had a guy look at the amp. It's a little side thing. A guy looked at the amp. He's actually coming tomorrow to buy it, and he said, why are you selling it? Da da da. And I said, well, I got too many guns. Well, I sent a picture of the guns. He asked for a picture of the guns, and I had the free flow in it. And he's like, he's a mech player, and he's like, how much of the cocker, the camo cocker? And I'm like, it's not for sale. And he's like, I told him it's a free flow, and he's like, he asked me how much, what do they go for? I had to tell him. He's a little bit sad, and I was like, that's just what they go for, dude. I'm like, but it's not for sale. It's my mech gun. I'm not getting rid of it. Which is funny that I said it 'cause I haven't shot it probably in 3-4 months, and you actually used it 2 weeks ago. Yeah, at a bachelor party. Which give us a rundown on that. How did that go?
I mean, it was great for me. I mean, I don't think any of them listened to this, but I haven't played paintball with people who don't play paintball probably since I started playing paintball. Like, once I started playing tournaments, I might go to a scenario here and there, but again, that's with people who play paintball. It's whether it's a bunch of old tournament guys or just guys that are around the sport. These were completely new players. So I did the nice thing, I hooked them up with some jerseys just so they were a little more comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, it stinks kind of playing in t-shirts and beanies and stuff like that. But so I hooked them up with a t-shirt, some jerseys. So my old Ga Xtreme one, someone was rocking, and it had Moon Pie on the back. And one of the refs that obviously know me was at our home field. He was like, it was Avery. He looked at me and he like mouthed like, "What the fuck? Like, what are you doing here?" And then the owner saw me and like, he looked at me. He was like, "You don't need a rental gun, do you?" And I'm like, "Oh, no." But I mean, yeah, it was good. I mean, we played like 10 games. I shot a full case of paint with that cocker. I was giving away a lot of paint too. Like I'd be out there, I'd bring 2 pods with me, and they'd be running
Yeah.
out, and I'm like, here, take a pod, like because I know I'm not going to shoot all this, but
Yeah.
I pretty much did, but mostly because I was giving it away. I could have done a 2-bag day, but I finally got shot 9 games in, or like 8 games in, or something. It was like the last 2 games I finally got hit, and they were like, has anyone shot you? I'm like, yeah, someone bounced me like the second game in on my arm pad, and then like it came down, I won one like 1-on-4, and then like every time they're like, how close were they? I'm like, you're close. I was like, but y'all really aren't hitting me until right there towards the end. Someone got me right in the side of the neck, and I don't think I've ever been shot in the neck. I had one of the worst welts I had ever had, and I was like, that gun wasn't chronoed. That was hard. I played this a lot to know what a gun. I was like, that was probably like 320, but I mean, it was good for me. I mean,
and that's the first time you probably played with a cocker. And
that's the first time I've ever played with a legit like semi-automatic cocker. All my other cockers I have and I've played with, I've all turned into pumps.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I had never in my life played with a cocker. The other Met gun I would have played with is the CVO, but I sold that. So other than that, I was like,
so how now? And you've always built most of your cockers that you've always used too. So that one, I mean, I guess that one is built, but that one's more of a high end, like a company build. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So what was it like playing?
Oh, it was
something that was done. You could just pull out the box. You knew it was
night and day different. Because like, I mean, behind me there, I have the 05 Pro Stock, which as a kid growing up, that was one of the guns. Well, I wanted an 05 Super Stock, but as I got older, I wanted the non-drill for eyes. So that one, but again, I turned into a pump. Now it has all free flow parts, CCM parts. It's a very high end build, but it's still not as smooth as that free flow. And I don't know if it's what free flow does. Obviously, they know how to build guns better than me. Yeah, mine's trial and error.
With tools.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I mean, it fits, it must work. And then I aired up and I'm like, cool, no leaks, let's rock. And then it chronos what I need. And I'm like, that's good enough for me because I don't know. And plus, again, I don't have to time it or anything like that.
Yeah,
because it's a pump, but it doesn't shoot like that free flow. I don't need another gun at all. But if I do, the next gun I will buy might not necessarily be a free flow. It'll be a new autococker, whether it's a free flow or a shock tech or even an Inceptions. I think all three. Obviously, those are like the only ones.
I still think I would go with Inceptions. Nothing wrong with those guns. They're very nice guns, but they're like. I feel that shock tech and free flow are like have been around, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And you know what I mean. I feel like Inception kind of came around when the mech was just getting big.
Yeah, probably about 10 years now.
Yeah, so which is perfectly fine. And those guns are badass. The Inceptions make some badass guns, but they're not cockers to me because they're small, milled, light, cut all the way up. I like full framed, big, not like crazy heavy cockers.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
about. You pull a cocker out, like I want like a shock tech, like a SFL or like a free flow, something that's like a cocker. And those, nothing wrong with the Inceptions, but they're milled down so much, which is great for the player. But there you can see the tubes on the gun. Like cockers are, to me, when you say cocker, they're meant to be boxy a little bit, like rounded on the edges. The back block's milled into the gun. You know what I mean? Like those are the kinds
I see
of
what you're saying. You're talking more like a traditional. Yes. There we go. I mean, now Simon, the owner, he's been around forever. He used to work for Play Clips. He's every time I've talked to him,
he sent me some prototype builds of guns. He was talking about building like 25 years ago.
Yeah, I've talked to him a few times. It's crazy.
And Inception, Simon Stevens is his name.
Yeah.
If any of you guys are looking for parts for any of the Inception guns, or even actually has a lot of cool stuff in general now. Makes badass ASAs. He makes retro parts for cockers that can go in any gun. Because she has a what's her gun called?
The Resurrection.
Resi? Yeah, Resi, but it's all Inception inside. I put everything Inception in it. Trigger, like lug, valve, everything into it's all Inception. And bolt, by the way, which is amazing setup, by the way. It is night and day shooting her Resi now.
Oh, it's crazy
with all the Inception parts. It's insane, but he is amazing for customer service.
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
need something, message him, and it's just like instant response. Now saying that, Buddy Bear is the guy who runs Free Flow and owns that, and Same thing. Like you need
Yeah.
something, text him at 9 o'clock at night, boom, responds right back to you. What do you need? Got it. It'll be in an email tomorrow. Like it's coming to you tomorrow.
That's the
Like
good thing
no
about all these
problem.
small companies. You know what I mean? That's well, a good thing about like at least with all the small companies in paintball, but most of the companies in paintball anyway are really good with getting back. Like when I had my because I had two Hurricanes SL-74s, and one of them I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a team gun. Like I'm not
That's the
a
one with the you had the Reds barrel kit
had
and
the
everything
Reds
with it.
barrel kit, so I was like, you know what? Like I want to just confirm this. Like I had thought that was it, and I messaged them, and they had like a whole list of stuff. He was like, yes, he said only, and then he asked me for the seal number. He even knew like what player it belonged to. He still had all this information. I was like, that is crazy. And they were like, if you ever like want to like sell it, let us know because I guess they didn't have one. That was one of the guns they were missing. And
Yeah.
then I ended up getting a too good of an offer, so I had to sell it to somebody else. But I bought it in like 2014. I kept it for a really long time, and I made like $400 on that thing. So I was like, "Oh, sorry, Planet Eclipse. I would love to sell it to you, but I know y'all aren't gonna pay what this gentleman's getting ready to fork
Yes.
out for this thing."
Yes. It's crazy though. It's yeah, going back to like shooting a perfectly timed like cocker
Yeah,
when I first shot that, uh back in the day, like you were like short stroking and missing, you have to like almost go out of your way to short stroke that thing. Like you
yeah,
could literally like shoot off finger and mess up and still like doesn't want to hiccup. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like still on the money with it.
yeah. I
Um,
don't think I short stroked it at all. And one time I double fit it. Like I pulled it real because I was talking to somebody and I was like wanting to shoot and I was like and I pulled it and the ball just fell in. I was like, oh, I'm gonna shoot two balls here, and I was like, so I cleared that out and that was the only thing I did the entire like, and it was one time right in the beginning, just because I had, you know what I mean. I don't play with an autococker
yeah.
ever,
Yep.
so it was it really makes me want one,
Yes.
even though
It
I
definitely
won't
does.
use it
Yep.
much. It would
And
get used
I mean, you
once a
see how
year.
much I've used it. I mean, we used it a
Yeah,
lot when we first started playing rec out there, just messing around. And I'll use it more on some of these events coming up and stuff like
yeah,
that. But and then if I do play some of these mech events that the guys are asking me about playing, I'll probably take it. I'll be outgunned shooting against CVOs
yeah.
and CS2s and mechs. But it's like if I shoot you with that, it's like boom, good showing.
Oh, for
Fucking
sure.
boom. Like you got out snapshot by a tank, like a fucking like a brick, and then you just get bonus balls by a
I'm telling
fucking
you,
conqueror.
there's gonna have to be rules against some of those guns,
Oh yeah,
or,
no,
or
it's
it'll have
insane.
another class. You know what I mean? You'll have a
Yeah, a hybrid
traditional mech
and a
or
hybrid.
something. You know what I mean? To me, I don't know how
I mean,
they'll
you
have
see
to
the
do it,
videos.
but
These guys are shooting the uh,
shockers and
adrenaline luxes that are
luxes.
coming out. They're shooting like 16, 18 balls a second. Like, okay, like we need to chill. You went back to mech because there are events that do limited paint runs,
Yeah,
right? So they went back to mech to kind of make the old guys. And this is my thoughts, and then nobody ever says this, but if you go to mech, you see a lot of these super old pros, the old busted up, broken ass
yeah,
pros. Rocky and all those dudes go play because they still have gun skill and they have field knowledge. They just don't have the ability to run to the 300 and dive in every single point,
it's just
5 times a
age.
match. Yeah, but they can go and hide behind a dirt pile and sneak down the field and shoot you in the side of the head.
Yeah,
And a lot of old pros, like all the all Americans, are all old, like Todd Adamson. A lot of those dudes are all playing over there because they still want to play and have the love of the sport. And everybody that I know that has switched over to mech, every single one got the
yeah,
love of the sport back, right?
yep,
And I will say, I'll probably go up and play with Curtis Roberts from BM for some of the Bloody Sundays up there in Tennessee.
yeah.
It's like a 10 man. I think it's like 5 games in the woods
Are
and
they
five
are
games
they
in the
doing those
mountains.
on the at the farm place?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, you've seen that the farm
Oh
field's
yeah,
insane.
that looks wild.
But I need to go up there. He's been asking me to play for a while. I need to go over there and just check it out. But we'll see. We'll see. It's a night and day, dude.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
mean, like I
it's
said,
crazy.
I won't ever do like if I buy a cocker, if I do a high end cocker, I think I'll have to buy it from. It doesn't have to be new, obviously, but it needs to have gone back to free flow and been updated, or gone
Which is
back to
no
Shuck
problem.
Tech and been updated.
Yeah.
That would be
Yep.
what I would need because
It's free.
how
A
old
shock
is
tech.
yours? Yours is that's an old
It's
autococker.
it's 18.
Oh, it's a new style. Okay, I wasn't sure. Someone asked me, and I said, "Oh, it's
I
really
mean,
old one." But it was
it technically is a very old autococker,
yeah.
but that gun, that whole entire gun's from 2018.
Okay.
But it's a fulcrum, and the fulcrum was from fucking like 2000s when it had, or
Yeah.
1998 whenever they came out and they played. So the way FIFO works is they say in advance, like, hey, in 3 months we're releasing the clutch, and
Yeah.
they have like 10 designs, and they make them typically, and then they'll make them in a mini and a standard, and they'll say we're releasing the clutch, and it goes on pre-order for 24 hours. I think now they went to 48 hours, and they go, however many guns we sell in 24 hours, that's how many we're making. So I
Yeah.
think they pre-order in 24 hours, they make them in the 24 hours, and then when it's done, it's closed, that's all you get. They're done. And then it's crazy because you choose what ammo you want, what barrel kit you want. Like on that is a obviously ammo matched UL that's freak
Yep.
board, but it came with two regulators, the CP regulator, which is debatably one of the best regulators of all
Yep.
time, and then it has the best regulator of all time, the AKA Sidewinder.
Yeah.
So it has both rigs come in the box, both are anno matched, the barrels are anno matched, and you choose exactly what anno you want. And it's like you literally go down a list and build your custom gun of how you want it to be, and then you wait probably 3 months, and then it shows up.
That's
Done,
what I'm gonna have to
hand-built,
do.
done, timed. And when I got it back, I got it, and I know it was a little bit off, and I talked to Buddy, and it needed a few updates. I sent it in. Literally, he got it in 2 days, and sent me a video of him shooting it at like fucking midnight, tuning it. And they were shooting, like, he shot like 301, 302, 300, 301, 300, 301. And he's like, there you go, dude, good to go. Aired it back down. He's like, I updated the bolt, the ASA O-rings. He's like, we're a new technology, a new different material. I updated the trigger shoe and something else for all the 2021 upgrades coming out for the new cocker. Sent it back free. Boom. Back to me.
Yeah.
So it's
when I
insane.
used it, I chrono it every time before I play.
Yeah.
All I did with that gun, I literally matched my paint, and I like walked out there on the field real quick, and I had my chrono, but I was like, I'm just kind of curious. I was like, me and Wes both have the same reg on our tank. I was like, so it should be good. I never chronoed it. I was like, oh, that's like money. Like, I could look at this and tell you this is 280, 290, 290, 292. I was like, this is great. I never once touched it until the end of the day. I was like, let me go hit, and it was like between 285 and like 300. I'm like, oh, that is like no complaints
considering what paint you're shooting.
Yes, considering what paint I was shooting, I was like, okay, I'm good with this. This is nice. I actually didn't shoot your barrel. I shot the one on this cocker. I used your stainless steel inserts because I was worried about scratching that matched barrel. I was like, I'll just run this old Deadly Winds barrel that I've had for years. I was like, I'll just use his shims.
But I'm like, you can use it.
I
Do
know.
not scratch that fucking barrel.
Like I said, I got shot like 2 or 3 times that whole weekend. Once in the neck, bounce in the arm, and then the one time someone shot me right in the pneumatics. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like,
every time. That's why you guys put those big ass ugly shrouds on there.
Yeah, and I cleaned it better than I would my own gun. I was like, the only thing I was like, damn it, that stained his the Teflon tape. Yeah, I was like, but I was like, he can take it off if he cares that bad. I was like, he'll eventually use it and go get shot in the Teflon tape as well.
Yeah.
But that was good. We went. That was a good little conversation.
Well, let's talk about the player situation at the field.
At our field, before we go there, I do want to talk about player situation at our field. But I have one thing in my notes here because we've talked about this before, and it's kind of break up a little bit here. So remember, we keep talking about that famous paintball book that I pre-ordered a million fucking years ago.
Yeah.
They put out another update last week.
Jesus Christ.
It's finally going to the printers. They finally got their last edit approvals, but they are printing it overseas in Korea.
God.
So there is no idea it's 2,000.
I have a feeling you're not getting this until like next year sometime.
Yeah, no, I would agree. They pretty much are saying that too. Like, still between COVID and everything else, that it's pretty much going to be. And I don't know. I've done this before. Let me look at these updates here. It's been a hot minute. I wish it'd say the estimated delivery originally was January 2020. So there you go. And we are March
a year and 2 months later.
2021. But yeah, I mean, and they raised $70,000, and it's still taken them this long. I mean, granted, like I said, it was a shit situation with the COVID thing happening. That's not their fault, but it's like the first update we got was nope, not August 2019. Just kidding. I gotta go back further than that. Was July 2019, and they thought they were gonna have everything done by January 2020. Not even close. But yeah, I just saw that. I got my alert a couple days ago on the 23rd, I think. And I figured, I was like, let me give Wes a little update on my book, because I ordered 2 of them damn things.
Perfect. One for me, one for you. Awesome.
One for the coffee table, one to get shoved on a bookshelf. I'll definitely bring it to the field so everyone can look at it, because it'll be cool, but I don't think it'll be more than cool. And it was expensive. It was like $50 or something.
What?
Yeah. I was like, oh, that'll be kind of neat. And I was like, oh, it's a paintball Kickstarter. Those don't happen very often. And it's supposed to be like, I don't want to say the full history of paintball. They basically took all their undeveloped footage from over the years and putting it into like a hardback magazine, basically. So, I don't know. It'll be neat. But anyway, player situation at Hoppers, the field that Ga Xtreme plays at. What we got going on?
Well, Jesus. Do we have a conundrum? I've seen that word earlier, and I've been wanting to use it on something. So I've been use it.
A conundrum. That's it.
Conundrum.
What is the? I don't know how to spell that.
The condom and then drum, probably, right?
UNDRUM. That's it. I wonder what the actual definition of that is. A confusing and difficult problem or question. No, this is you right here. This is how you used it. A question asked for amusement, typically one with a pun in its answer, aka a riddle.
Yeah, see? Perfect.
Okay, so what's our conundrum?
We have a slew of players.
We do.
And
and a slew of we have a really tight pack of D4 players that are all good.
Yes.
That's the conundrum.
Yeah.
And we have D5 players that are touching that D4 level, and then we've got D6 guys that are going to learn really fast because
they're already touching D5 level without zero
tournament experience.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm just trying to figure out. It's tough to kind of control it all at once, man. Trying to set up these lines. I'm trying to control like 3 lines, and it's like and play right.
Yep. Oh,
but man, it's trying to set up. We have so many players that are sitting around wanting to play. I'm trying to get these guys in and get them some points.
I don't know how these other. I mean, I always say we're a very small organization or camp.
Not anymore.
And I don't know if we're as small as we think we are. You know what I mean?
We have enough to run 4 lines with no problem.
Yeah. And I think
which isn't big now. When you talk about other camps, but it's very big for us because that was never a thing.
No. I mean, the most when I first started, we had a Ga Xtreme line. This is 2007 or 8, and we had 2 Project X lines. And normally one of the Project X lines basically both would fold and turn into one. They would merge because you'd have a handful of players drop from here and there, and then a couple years later, some of those guys would drop off, and then they would move up to the Ga Xtreme line when some of those players either got too old or moved away and stuff like that. It always was a pretty easy system to control because we never had the numbers.
Yeah.
If we had 10 people at a field on a weekend, that was a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, and we play that way forever though.
Yeah, and now if we have
below 25.
Yeah, it's like
it's weird.
It's really strange. Yeah, it's like, just a weird why? That's odd.
Wonder where they all are.
Yeah, that's it is. What's that? What are you doing? Like you're supposed to be here.
Yeah. So man, we got a CPSL coming up in 3 weeks. Yeah. We have the MVPS in 2 weeks after that.
There's an SPL slipped in there somewhere that I know. I mean some of the Titan guys are going, right?
We're sending a D6 line as well. Yeah. We are sending Avery, Chris, and Josh down there to play. And
is anyone going with them? Out of curiosity.
See that was my issue. I didn't want to send them, and I'm not going with them, or Chuck's not going. Somebody's not going with them to support them, right?
What weekend is that?
The 13th, 14th.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, well, we need it for practice, like
Yeah. Well,
CPSL
and
practice.
I'm out that weekend anyway. That's my
Yeah.
big weekend where I'm gone the whole weekend.
So it just sucks because I was trying to, and they probably will play the MVPS as well. But I was like, I really want to hold you guys to the MVPS because we will have a ton of us down there
Yeah.
for support and all hanging out, right? But it's insane the amount of players we have that are wanting to play, that everything is falling in line. So we tried to get another line together this week, and I think I'm going to try to do Perkins, Hicks, Seth, Chuck, Harper, Stephen Harper,
Mm-hmm.
and for 5, and then I'm leaving one off somewhere. I know I'll have Carson as a floater for that team, and then I can't think of the other player. I had him 7, I think.
We have so many. I have a hard time remembering everybody too now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and I'm bad with names anyway. So now I'm like, oh fuck. Now I have to remember. I had a hard time remembering. I mean, I obviously know my normal people, but then it's like you add 5 more. I'm like, motherfucker, who is this person?
yes. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be good for the CPSL on both lines. MVPS I already paid for, so we're going to have to pay for the CPSL come up here. It's actually closer.
Yeah.
Going to pay for them here shortly, and then figure out what's going on with it, and what we're going to have to go from there. But we're going to set lines here and lock them a little bit more down. But I think we're at my biggest issue is trying to find. We have so many D4 players, but there's not really a D4 5-man besides the SPL. We
Yeah.
don't have enough extra D4 players to go play D4 X ball, right? We don't have enough extra D5 guys to play D5 X ball because D5 X ball or D5 MVPS, you can have 2 D4 players and the rest
Yeah.
D5 guys. But we don't have enough D5 guys to play that. That's some of the issue going into that.
I know it's a good hard weird spot to be in if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
good we have these numbers. I don't know if we have them in a weird way, or if we you know what I mean. If it's an odd split of skill level we have, because we don't want anybody to get blown up and rolled off the field because that obviously
Yep.
looks bad for us. Doesn't mean you have to win every tournament because winning a paintball tournament is insanely difficult. I don't care what anybody says. It's harder than winning a tournament in other sports, and I fully stand by that. Yeah, I mean, and it looks bad for the name. You know what I mean? Like Georgia Extreme,
Well, I mean, it
people
also
know it.
discourages players too,
Yeah,
right?
that too.
So
Yeah,
younger players that are playing under that Project X name, and they come up, they go to the first tournament. Some players just don't have the mentality like, hey, this is your first event. Like we've all lost events, right?
yep,
Some worse than others, but you are gonna have a time where you get beat on and
yep,
you just get your shit pushed in all day. Like that happens.
yep.
But some players don't have that drive and mentality where they can go out there and just get fucking steamrolled. Because at the end of the day, like there's like 0-4, 0-5, like their attitude changes and everybody's kind of pissy and they're argumentative. They're like they go back to the pits or back to the staging area. They're like all mad and like talking shit. They're like everybody's in a bad mood. Nobody
Yep.
wants that. You
No.
can go to an event, right? And as long as you tell yourself for the event, hey, this is our first event. We are playing in a big league. We're probably not going to do as well as some other teams we know. We're just going to take this as it goes and just see where we end up at, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what's going to have to happen. But I would like to be able to throw in a worst case, throw in the CPSL, get Chuck and them all together because they almost have enough to do a D4 X ball line at CPSL, and
Yeah.
I think that they'd be okay over there. I think the MVPS would be a little tougher for them. I think there's a lot more competition probably at the
Yeah.
MVPS.
I would agree.
Not saying there's not, there are definitely really good teams at CPSL,
Oh yeah,
but
for
there's
sure.
a lot better teams at the MVPS than there is at CPSL. But I think Harper, Seth, they're already up there for the CPSL kind of like they're close to it, so it's easy for them. Perkins, Chuck, Kevin,
Is it Wes Brown?
Carson,
Carson.
Wes Brown. There it is.
I knew we were forgetting somebody too.
That was 7.
Fucking people we've known
haven't
for
seen them
years.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the 7. But here's the issue, right? You ready? Who's going to coach? If I pull Chuck over there to play, who's coaching?
No,
Now,
I agree.
we're probably not both playing at the exact same time, or we could be. So we would have to have a coach. we're gonna have to have a coach.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. If we have 7 players and full pit, we could probably do it. We did it with
Yeah.
less. We did it with like 7 players and like 1 pit person and a pod runner, and it was a bitch. Now,
Yeah.
if we have 7 full players, a full pit staff, and a pod runner, we could probably let shit go and just fucking let it rip.
Yeah, I mean, as
Most of
long
our players have
as we're
played
not,
together long enough.
yeah, as long as those the pit people, I guess they're not players, are going to
Watching what's going on.
Are watching what's going on, and they're probably going to have to pit for both lines unless we're playing each other. Then it's a whole different, you know what I mean? It's going to be those poor D5 guys because one team can't have a full, you know what I mean? That would be shitty. But if we're playing at separate times, it's okay. But
Shit
I don't
on.
know. I mean, because everyone needs, at minimum, you need a pod, you need 2 pit people, I think.
You need one pod runner
and a filler.
and 2 people. You probably need 2 people.
You probably need 2, but you should be able to take one of your spare players.
1 person pod running is where, especially if you have no coach, you definitely have to have 2 in the pits, 1 running pods, and 7 players. I don't think you can be done with that less than that. We have played it less than that.
Yeah.
I did play an event. I played the MVPS with VM's bomb line with it was me, Rangel, Curtis, Pierce, fucking Travis. We had all the guys and Adam, but we only had 6 people, and Courtney was the only person there for us. And then we had a rando dude running pods every now and then, but that was it. And then Payne showed up and helped out, but we have 6 players and no coach. So it's like, let's fucking let it rip.
It's a fucking event.
We played MVPS D3X, so it was super fun to play.
Oh, that's that Sunday event that we played D5 Saturday.
Yes.
And then that's one I talk about that tournament a lot. That's one of the most fun at an event because I didn't think I was gonna be able to go. Like you had texted me literally like all week, and I was like, I can't go. And then it was like Wednesday, I was like, I actually can go. Yeah. And driving down there with your brother, I hadn't played with him in years. Like I hadn't played a tournament with your brother in years, and he was just now playing a little bit here and there. And I was down there going, man, I was like, this probably isn't going to go too hot. Like, it wasn't a bad thing. It was just what was in my mind. And then it was like, we showed up to the address sent us to some middle of the ghetto down there in Tampa. And I was like, shit, we're going to fucking die. The hotel was under construction and it was nowhere to fucking park. I was like, this is just a shit show. And then it's we started playing and it was okay, we're doing pretty good. And then it was once we got out of prelims, me, you, and your brother played every point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it was 5-man, but it's still, you know what I mean? It ended up being 26-ish games, which is a decent amount of games. But it was, I don't know, it was just crazy. And then at the end of it, we're playing, we lose some games here and there, take some overtime. So we're playing for 3rd and 4th, I believe.
Yeah.
And I just know it's 5 of us alive. And this guy's in this back, right? I'm at the 50, I like an X. Your wife's at the bunker next to me. I can see you getting ready to push down to their Doritos. Your brother's pushing down the snake, and the other guy was either flying down the Doritos with you or there. And I'm just shooting at this guy in the back right, going, this poor gentleman is getting ready to have a real bad day because me and Courtney are just shooting his bunker, and I'm like, one of these 3 are going to run down there and stick him, and there's nothing this guy can do. This point was played perfectly. And it was just 5 bodies alive, 1 guy left in a corner, and 2 people are just going to shoot at his bunker. And if he leans out, we're going to hit him. If he trades with one of y'all, one of the other guys are going to hit him. I was like, oh, this is great. And no one traded. Ran down there, hung the flag. I was like, fuck, I hadn't won a tournament in 6 years at this point. This is nice.
It takes them just relax and go play.
Oh, yeah.
We played with me, Joey, Hunter, Courtney, John, and Chuck. I think Chuck, yeah. We won that event, and that was the first time she's ever won an event.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I won an event with Joey, I think.
Yep.
And it was crazy because Joey hasn't played much at all when he played with me then. That was his first time playing back, really. And
he won 2 tournaments, the 3rd in that first place that year after not playing in years.
Yeah. And it's crazy we got back into it, and he was like, we won, and it's just how many points we played. And I say that, but it was a bad deal because every single event that year I played double dayed. Yeah. I played Saturday a full event, and then I played Sunday the full event. So I played 27 points or something, 28 points the first Saturday, and the Sunday we played X ball. we didn't play much, so we didn't do well that day. We only played like 20 points. But when I played with the VM line and our line, I played fucking 26 points one day and then like 30 points the next day. So I was going home playing like 60 points a weekend, and I'm like, this is a fucking sketch. I'm like,
oh yeah.
My body's like, I hate you.
I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but the CPSL we won this past June, that was one of the toughest tournaments I've ever played, and like that's the first tournament Jamie had ever won. That's the first one me and you had ever won to get like first place won. I mean, all of us together have taken countless seconds and third places, like just always coming up short. But I was like, wow, that's the first one I've placed first with Wes. Really, everybody out there, like with the exception of Payne.
Yeah,
that's funny because he's been around the least. But I was like, wow. And then Jamie, he was just like walking. He looked around. He goes, I finally won a tournament.
Yeah.
I was like, and then I looked and I said, yeah, and it was a fucking grinder. I was like, once we got out of prelims, we've told this a million times, but everything went in overtime. Everything. I was just like, okay, well, we're either gonna win this, and it's either gonna be a great story or a real shitty story. So
every time, next match, boom, overtime again. Shit.
It's like motherfucker,
Jesus, man.
Yeah, and that layout was good for us. That was just the way it played for how it played for our strengths.
Yeah,
but that was a little bit of a different podcast. I got one question for you, and Ken asked me this past weekend, and I answered him in a weird way, and I don't know. If someone asked you what type of podcast are we, what would you tell them other than a paintball podcast?
Say it again.
Ken asked me what type of podcast are we? Like, other than a paintball podcast, how would you like answer that question?
Sports and news.
Sports and news. Okay, I could do that. I told him, I was like, honestly,
if you had to put a label on it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. He goes, well, sometimes you'll go off on tan. I'm like, yeah. I was like, but everybody goes off on a tan. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, we're unscripted.
Yeah, I'd say like sports and current topics.
Sports and current topics. Yeah, because we touch on some not super current stuff, but sometimes. But I was just curious. I think I told him just like a sports podcast, but I didn't. You know what I mean? I didn't know either, but I was just popped in my head.
Oh, sports topic right here before we get off. Our GI has fired Nick Slowiak's bum ass. So
really,
yeah. There's
yikes.
I just seen that on some GI talk.
Oh boy!
Boom, roasted.
No more flex parts for us.
Yep. I've seen a whole bunch of arguing back and forth on some of the pages.
Yikes.
Other players and people, and it looked like it's removed off of his profile, and GI said something along the lines of an ex-employee. So.
Oh yikes! That sucks. I mean, it happens. It might not even be. You know what I mean? They just. Yeah. I mean, I think he brought them a lot of money this past year, but.
Yes.
You know, they might think we can get rid of him and we can get money that way too.
Yep.
So he's an odd bird. The few times I've talked to him, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. He just seems like a different dude.
He's a weird person.
Yeah.
I've talked to him a few times at the MVPS. He's down there often, and he is a different person. Yes. Odd. When you speak to him, he's kind of like off. He's kind of like I feel like when I listen to Oliver Lang talk.
Oh yeah, Oliver Lang's a weird person too.
I need to listen to. You know, he did the live interview with Matty Marshall.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that yet.
I need to listen to it because I can only imagine what they're talking about.
I mean, after listening to the one that he did with Marcelo and Tyler Harmon, their podcast, I was like I knew he was weird before because I had heard him on some other like small things. Yeah, but that was the one I fully truly immersed myself in. And was like, I'm gonna listen to this whole podcast, and I was like, oh, he's as weird. No. He's more weird than I initially thought. Like,
yes.
I mean, I don't know. Wow, I don't do what he does, but I also don't live in
to the hyperbolic chamber and the fountain of youth, and then roll through the waterfall of Minnetonka.
You're not wrong.
Those are all like things he says. I'm like, what is going on with this man? How high are you right now, sir?
Oh yeah, he's super high. That's 1,000% facts. But well, did you have anything else, good sir?
That's it.
I think that's all I had too. I'll take us out of this bad boy. Thanks again for listening, watching. Someone bought merch at 2:37 in the morning our time. So I don't know where the heck they were in the world. I have no idea. But thanks for buying the merch. We sold some hoodies and somebody bought some Georgia Extreme face masks. Either someone was drunk shopping our time and bought stuff super early, or
Maybe it could be Chuck.
it could be Chuck.
237 is definitely bourbon Chuck.
I mean,
That's
it's
the
possible. We'll see because I haven't. That'll be the first one that's got any of the Georgia Extreme stuff in our area. I haven't even ordered my own yet.
that sounds like a drunk Chuck kind of thing.
I would. I could agree with that statement. But thanks for listening and watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace out, guys.
Later, boys and girls.